Hi, Ernie Vargas here. So I'm here at the office and I just got off the phone with one of my students, and he had told me that he heard from a different real estate speaker, trainer, talk about probate. And, this trainer, I'm sure, had great intentions in really sharing that probate is an abundance of an opportunity here for us, the investors, people that are ready, willing, and able to sell properties. That's absolutely found in probate. That's why I love probate so much. That's why I've been in the probate niche for so long. But this gentleman that was sharing about probate actually produced a little bit of a fear factor in my student. My student called me and he said, Ernie, man, you know, I'm really scared. I have to be honest with you. And I said, why? What happened? What's going on? He said, well, there was this guy that came over and spoke to our local real estate club, and he was talking about probate, and he said that when I, as an investor, submit an offer, that immediately I must submit a notice of proposed action to the heirs. And he said, I have no idea how to go about that, and I didn't see that in the manual. Well, I said, it's okay, don't worry, do not worry. That's why you've got me. And I always tell my students, just pick up the phone, call me, send me an email. If I'm not there to respond, somebody in my staff is. The short answer to that is that, that's not something that you need to be worried about. Okay? The attorneys handle that. I always tell my students, we are not the attorneys conducting the probate. We are simply the investor helping the estate to liquidate the most important asset and the most valuable asset held in that estate, and that is the real estate. That's our job. Our job is simply to buy that property. That's it. It's like as if, let's take for example, maybe there's a divorce, and maybe there's a car that needs to be sold as part of the settlement in this divorce, and then you come along and you offer to buy that car. All you are is just simply a buyer of that car. Now, let's say, for example, that in this case, you as the buyer of this particular property, you're interested in buying that property. Well, you have absolutely no worries about what is done through the probate. Now, of course, there are certain time lines there are certain things that have to be met throughout the timeline, but not your biggest obligation. Now, are you there to help and facilitate? Yeah, as much as possible, but you don't want to cross over anybody's toes. That's what the attorneys are there for. Let's say, for example, then that it's what I call an improper case, meaning that the seller is not represented by an attorney, but rather by him or herself. Now, in this instance, that person may need a little bit of guidance, but you want to be careful because, again, you are the buyer to this property. Now, are there ways to expedite this notice of a proposed sale? Yeah, there are, and there are things that we can do to help that process along a little bit faster if need be. But the moral to today's story here is that we don't need to be afraid. We don't need to worry about knowing everything and all the legalities that go with probate. The most important thing that you need to know is that is there a hungry buyer? Is there somebody who's really in need of selling and liquidating? Do they have a need? Yes, and if that is so, then you as the investor, how do you help this person to do that? That's the most important thing. We get that right, and then we'll move on to the next step. So let's focus on one thing at a time. Don't ever let fear hold you back.